All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. Before we get now, Kayla, that's just playing. That's just playing to the base. Rich's was her company, so you've all just been upped one there. So before we get going, just a couple logistical pieces. As I was saying earlier, I think everyone is probably pretty up to speed on Zoom at this point in our lives. But if you aren't, the most important thing with Zoom is that as you move your cursor on your screen, your lower left button is the mute button. If you are not engaged in the discussion at a particular time, if you can click on that button, that just helps everyone else out so much. If by some reason, if you don't click that and there's some background noise, that's why we brought in the heavy hitter today. Derek Nichols is going to help us out as our official bouncer. And so big round of applause, our virtual round of applause to Derek. He may mute you. That's not because he doesn't like you. That's just so that everyone else can hear the presentations, etc. Also, in your upper right corner, there's a speaker view or gallery view button. So right now I'm looking in gallery. I can see at least the 20 or so that are on this screen. And then if you click to the right, you can see screen 2 with a bunch of other folks as well. So if you click on the speaker view function, that'll obviously zero in on just the person who's activated by the volume at that time. So when students are presenting or we're taking questions, whatever works for you. If we have a technical glitch, which we won't, but if we have a technical glitch, just log back in. Most of the time that is on the user's end. So you may have low connectivity. I've had that throughout this class because like many of you, we have children who are remote distance learning and sucking up all the internet at our house. So do your best and just log back in and you'll be right back in the conversation. So as we begin today, I think it's only fitting that we, especially on this beautiful day outside with sunshine here, at least where I am, that we acknowledge the land upon which the University of Buffalo operates, which is the territory of the Seneca people, a member of the Haudenosaunee Six Nation Confederacy. Today, this region is still the home of the Haudenosaunee people, and we are incredibly grateful for the opportunity to live, to work, to play, and to share ideas in this beautiful territory. Seems a little crazy to be doing that in a virtual piece, but if you look around with all of us here in all of these different places, thinking about what unifies that with a few exceptions in terms of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and all of the pieces that means for our sustainability work. Our session today will be contained within an hour. And it'll start with an overview from my fantastic colleague, Elizabeth Thomas, Professor Thomas, who is the brainchild of this class. Each of our 6 teams will then have a whopping 2 minutes to present really their kind of high-level take on the work and the proposals that they have put forth with their companies. We intentionally chose 2 minutes and really tried to follow Mark Twain's sound advice of, had I the time, I would have written you a shorter letter. The idea here is both substance, and we've talked a lot about that in this course, but also style in terms of how you get your message across in a very concise format. So we've been working a lot on that. This will be followed by up to 3 minutes of questions from our 2 awesome panelists, who will be introduced in a second, but Bonnie Lawrence and Hadar Borden. And then once through the presentations, we will take questions from the audience and from the group. Excuse me, I'll get my vernacular right here. And then we'll move from there. Also, once the students start presenting, I think I just kind of mentioned this on the technical side, but if you could, they will start to screen share, obviously. If you could then turn off your video, that will enable then the people presenting to be seen along with their visual. So again, once they start presenting and the questions from the 2 panelists, have your video off, and that'll be easier for everyone. So I think this, thank you, Captain Obvious, but these are certainly challenging times for all of us. But we've talked a lot about in this class about it's also a time of great learning and hope. And while at no other time we've witnessed such cooperation amongst the globe, amongst our state, our nation, to advance care and safety for those who are most vulnerable. I think for Elizabeth and I, these students have really demonstrated to us that life really is about adapting and practicing active hope and really grounding yourself in purpose. So we're very proud of what our students have accomplished in certainly less than ideal circumstances. And we're also very grateful to our corporate partners who have worked alongside them through this. Our current COVID challenge is also not the only one that we face, but as many leaders have expressed over the past 2 months, it's really acting as somewhat of a dress rehearsal for the larger work that we must engage with, and that these students and that these companies are engaged with as we think about the challenge that the climate poses. So today, you'll hear from our 6 teams who worked with 6 fantastic businesses and organizations who are really working to meet that challenge that climate change poses. Elizabeth?
Thank you so much, Ryan. And thank you so much to everybody for being here today. I'm gonna take a second and share my screen. So welcome to the 2020 Carbon Reduction Challenge. This has been, as Ryan said, a very interesting semester thanks to the global crisis related to the coronavirus. Before that, we developed this course a couple years ago in partnership with UB Office of Sustainability and the Western New York Sustainable Business Roundtable. And I see quite a few members from the SBR here today. So thank you all so much for your support and your partnership in this class. It's been really exciting to be able to work with you, and we've all learned a lot from it. This class was originally inspired by a very similar course that's been taught for over a decade now by Drs. Kim Cobb and Beryl Takte at Georgia Tech. And they are continuing that course, including a summer competition relating to internships. And you can learn more about that at carbonreductionchallenge.org. This course has benefited a lot from guest lecturers who visited our class both in person and remotely. We've had 3 guests from outside of UB, Jess Otney, Ali McPherson, and Osa Guilamo, who've brought a perspective from business and environmental advocacy. And then we've had a real incredible range of expertise from folks here at UB. So thank you to all of our guest lecturers for taking the time to share your wisdom with us. As Ryan mentioned, we're also really lucky today to have 2 panelists who will be sort of responding to the student presentations. Bonnie Lawrence is a UB alumna, and she majored in Italian and interdisciplinary environmental studies. And today is the Deputy Commissioner of the Erie County Department of Environment and Planning. And Hadar Borden is the director of UB's Blackstone Launchpad, powered by Techstars, which is a campus-based entrepreneurship network. And she's also the director of the Western New York Prosperity Fellowship Program. So thank you both so much for being with us today to help out with these presentations. In this class, just a very quick rundown of what happens through the semester. We make sure that all of our students have sort of the basics of modern climate change down, and we really quickly launch into the main project of the course, where the students work with their partner business or organization to identify projects that they can use to reduce carbon emissions. They then quantify those CO2 and cost savings relating to those strategies and pitch that to their corporate partners. And then they implement those reduction strategies and sort of count carbon. This semester, of course, that took a hard left turn halfway through when the coronavirus arrived in the US. And so the student teams and the partners have been working really hard to actually quantify some of the CO2 savings that have been realized as a result of the pandemic, whether we wanted to or not, and are sort of strategizing about how to continue some of those strategies into the future. This is the second year we've taught this course. Last year, there were 15 students working with 5 Buffalo businesses, and they saved around 900,000 pounds of carbon annually. So these are strategies that they've developed and the businesses implemented more or less permanently moving forward. And they're saving that amount of carbon, which is equivalent to removing 90 cars off of the roads of Western New York permanently. This semester, we have 16 students partnering with 6 Buffalo businesses and organizations, and you'll hear a lot more about that in a minute from our students. And collectively, moving forward, these teams and businesses have saved over 2.2 million pounds of carbon annually, equivalent to removing 220 cars off the roads of Western New York. And so we're really, really proud of our student teams and so grateful to our partner businesses and organizations for working with us. And I'll pass the baton now to our first student team for their presentation. You're going to hear from Croft and Serena.
And at this point, if folks could stop their video, but stay on with us, obviously, and then towards the end, when we get to the audience Q&A, you can kick your video back on. Thank you. Bonnie and Hadar, please keep your videos on.
All right. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Serena.
And I'm Croft.
And today we will be talking about continuing Erie County's Department of Environment and Planning's carbon reduction. Currently, the county has about 2,800 employees working remotely using WebEx or Zoom. This means those employees aren't driving the daily commute, so we've estimated about 1,600 metric tons of carbon have been saved in 7 weeks. Additionally, press conferences have also been moved online, saving an estimate of 10 metric tons of carbon and increasing public involvement. Some of the recent videos have 100 to hundreds of views. Crofton will talk about future plans.
So when looking at this COVID situation, we wanted to develop a health and wellness plan that include remote working days. If they allow the same people who are currently working from home to choose 6 days out of the year to work remotely, it would save an estimate, it'll have a carbon savings estimate of removing 100 cars off the road for that year. It also increases flexibility, employee morale and retention, and increases efficiency. Serena's going to talk about the second half of our health and wellness plan.
The second part of the plan is encouraging employees to use stairs over the elevator by hanging signs to promote stair use and cleaning the stairs frequently to make them more enticing. If a building reaches a 10% reduction in elevator use, we estimate carbon savings of 2 metric tons per year. The co-benefits of this plan are promoting employee health and decreasing obesity, which aligns with the goals of Live Well Erie. Back to you, Croft.
Our additional future plan is reducing elevator use in the Rath building. We want to request that they impose a door delay, which will reduce elevator use by 30%, saving them 6 metric tons of carbon per year and $3,000. Additionally, we ask that they turn off 6 of their 8 elevators at night, saving them $50 an hour in electricity and 3 pounds of carbon per hour. These are our 2 main plans, the health and wellness plan and reduction in elevator use. We want to have a special thanks to Erie County Department of Environmental Planning, Tracy and Josh, as well as you guys for listening. Thanks.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great. Elizabeth, you jump in if you'd like, but I'm just going to kind of moderate over to with Bonnie and Hadar. Thank you both. Thanks, Hadar, for joining with us. Excuse me. If you guys have questions, please go ahead and pose them to the team.
Do you want me to start, Hadar?
Sure.
First of all, thank you. So I am with Erie County and we really appreciate your work. I see that you looked at our climate action and sustainability plan and you really found some things that we hadn't included in that. The benefits of COVID-19 are not very many, right? But this telecommuting thing, I didn't think it was going to happen. anytime soon. And now we've been able to show our administration that it can actually work. So I appreciate you capturing the benefits of that. I think that you did a great job, and I'll just turn it over to Hadar.
Thanks, Bonnie. This was a great presentation. It was really clear and concise, and really made an impression on me on how there are small things that we can do, really they're big things that have a great impact that we really didn't think about pre-COVID. So like Bonnie said, I think it's nice to see that there are some positives that are coming out of this darker days. And I would also be interested in learning. I know that Erie County, as many of the other different agencies, host lots of coalition meetings. So I'd be also interested to see kind of the impact of maybe hosting such meetings in a webinar, much like this presentation. So this is great ideas. Thanks so much for your efforts, and I look forward to seeing what Erie County might be able to implement and see how it impacts long-term.
Just building on that, Hadar, we have been holding our community meetings virtually. So that isn't something that we've added up as far as our greenhouse gas reduction, but we should do that. And we are also looking at how we're going to transition back after this crisis is over and what the greenhouse gas implications are there. So we'll be using some of your work for that.
I noticed that there's a question in the chat about door delays and impact on how might door delay impact on the elevator impact visitors with and/or disabilities. We were using a study that only had the door delay for about a week and then reduced it very quickly, reduced it after that week, and it showed a sustained reduction in use, because after that one time of it taking too long, most of the employees did not continue. Sorry.
It's great. Thank you, Krat. And thank you, Serena. Super. Let's transition next to our colleagues who are working with Mark Schreiber and the Kerbel team.
All right, hello everyone. All right, so hello and welcome. We are Team Green Street and we are continuing Kerbel's sustainability journey. I'm Daniel Lucier and this is...
I'm Ken Bergsala.
And I'm Stephen Princeton.
So the effects of COVID-19 are far and widespread, but has given us a great opportunity to push for a more sustainable future. Due to the current lockdown, about 109 employees are working from home. This has dramatically reduced the carbon emissions in transportation and utility usage. The transportation emissions over the course of 4 weeks have dropped by about 63,000 pounds, which is equivalent to about charging a smartphone 3.6 million times.
Also, during the duration of the lockdown, Kerbel was able to mitigate 25,000 gallons of water from being used at their facilities and save approximately 60 kilowatts of electricity within that single month.
So we put a wellness program in place as a possible future scenario where you could have a variety of things entailed with it, ranging from employee happiness programs to lowering carbon emissions. This gives the employees the availability to work from home a set number of days a year for a variety of reasons set forth by Kerbel. By allowing an employee to work from home, you can lower your carbon emissions substantially by reducing transportation usage, utilities, and so on. It also reduces the risk of future exposure to COVID and other pathogens. For example, average commute to work equates to 29 pounds of carbon each way.
We also would like to implement a compost plan in the future. Kerbel's placed an emphasis on a long-term goal of becoming a zero-waste company, and this entails sustaining 90% resource recovery. Currently, Kerbal, as of 2018, was at 81% of waste diverted from landfills. Compostable waste provides the most significant opportunity to increase the waste to landfill diversion with an additional 3%. If you account for the traditional waste management cost, composting can save approximately $2,000 a year. Ken will discuss our next plan.
So our final strategy was to adjust the indoor temperature between both facilities by 2 degrees depending on the season. As a result, in the first month of its implementation, 1,300 pounds of carbon were reduced, which saved around $80 a month. And if you extrapolate that out for the yearly totals, that's about 15,000 pounds of carbon and around $1,000 saved between both facilities.
And
Thank you,
Chief
Kerbal
and Mark
and Mark Nelson.
Great. Thank you all so much. Bonnie and Hadar?
Want me to go first, Hadar?
Sure.
Could you talk a little bit more about that? That was a great presentation, by the way, very concise, some great ideas. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the temperature adjustment. In particular, I know in our building, a 2-degree adjustment might cause some complaints around comfort. How were you thinking about addressing that?
I initially suggested maybe do it once a week, implement like a dress down day or something where some the employees could wear something a little more comfortable, cozier.
Yeah, another way of implementing it was sort of a hands-off policy as well, is kind of doing it without letting your employees know and seeing what happens, because we're so easily able to acclimate to temperatures that most people often won't notice. So that was also an idea.
I really appreciated all the graphics, great visual representation of your ideas, and very succinct. I was actually interested in learning a little bit more about your idea about the wellness program, and I think this is a question that's also might be reflected in the chat, but while we can go across the board and suggest that we implement remote work, maybe there are some entities within an organization, for example, maybe the marketing communications department, maybe they could do more days remote versus maybe like the production folks that are in-house. So did you consider maybe different components or entities within an organization and how much they would have adjusted their work-life balance?
Yeah, so with Kerbal, they have, and we only did the Orchard Park location, so they have a manufacturing component and the corporate office component. So with the manufacturing component, obviously they wouldn't have the availability to be able to perform work from home. They would have to come in, but we more so focus on the people who can report remotely from home, and it would be determined by Kerbal X number of days a year that they would be able to work from home. And this would be like a earned right, like a privileged thing. It wouldn't be something just given, and it would be like, it could be taken back or rolled out in any way possible. And it can entail a variety of things. So it was more so like, if you're sick or you have another issue related to home, say your kids have a snow day or something like that, you would have the availability to perform this work at home. So it's a really flexible program that could go in a variety of ways.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think, as many more companies consider these opportunities, I think it's really important, as we always say, as in getting people that are actually impacted, the employees, to have an opportunity to weigh in on the different policies as they're being formed.
Yeah, and there's a great comment in the chat just to reinforce that last point. And I bring it up knowing that in my own household, this is a major issue as well. But thinking about considering how temperature affects genders maybe differently as well. So I just wanted to flag that. I know we're a little tight on time with this part, but something for the group to think about. Super, thank you very much, Kerbal team. Williamsville Consolidated School District is up next.
All right, I hope the presentation is sharing right now. Is it working, Emily?
Yeah, it's good.
All right. Well, hello all. Our partner was the Williamsville Central School District. This school district teaches 10,000 K through 12 students across Western New York. We want to quickly thank Dr. Martzloff for letting our group get involved with the district this semester. So since it is a school district, it was a priority for us and the district that we involve the students. So we initially met with a group of high school students to see where their concerns in sustainability was in the district. And they really wanted us to prioritize plastic and waste. So this led to our three main strategies in our proposal. We want to implement composting food waste, reducing plastic cutlery, and implementing meatless Mondays in the cafeterias.
Over the course of the 2020 to 2021 school year, we've estimated that $11,000 will be saved from our proposal. These three strategies also have the potential to reduce Williamsville District's carbon footprint by 140,000 pounds of CO2. This is the equivalent of taking 14 vehicles off the road for 1 year. Now Emily will discuss our implementation of our proposal.
All right, so for implementation, we have proposed an off-site composting pilot in one middle school, which can be expanded to other schools across the district as the district sees fit. Plastic silverware reduction can be achieved by finding a viable alternative, preferably compostable or biodegradable. And meatless Mondays can easily be implemented twice a month by just taking any meat options off of the menu on those 2 days. The ease and impact of this portion of the proposal has been demonstrated with the 1,200 or so meatless meals that have been served each week while the schools have been closed.
There are co-benefits to our proposal, such as the compost program being used in the classroom as an educational opportunity. Also, reducing landfill waste is a priority to the students of Williamsville, and this will be accomplished through our proposal as well.
We would just like to thank the Williamsville School District and everybody at the district that has worked with us this semester.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I find one of the most awkward things about virtual meetings is that you can't hear people clapping, but I know they are. So great work. Hadar and Bonnie.
Yeah, this was another great presentation. Thank you. I live in the Amherst Central School District, so very close to Williamsville, and have lots of friends and family that live in that district. So really quick personal anecdote. I've been a vegetarian now for, I think, 20 plus years. And with the COVID scare on some of the meat supply, my family was shocked to know that they might have to have more than meatless Monday. So it's great that you've proposed that. And I kind of wonder what would be the impact of, another maybe not having Taco Tuesday, let's say, for the students. These are great educational pieces that you mentioned that could add for our students and really create a great impact, long-term impact for our society as a whole. Thanks for highlighting all those points.
Thank you. Yeah, so go off the Meatless Monday thing, it really shows with the COVID-19 that they're already kind of doing the meatless meals. And Kathy, the nutrition director for the district, is really excited about this part. She's a vegan herself, and it's already has a book of meal plans that she can implement into the district already.
That's great. Hadar, we're neighbors. I live in the Amherst School District too. And as part of my PTA duty, when my kids were younger, I worked on an environmental committee where the students wanted to take disposable serviceware out of the cafeterias. And so in that project, we worked on getting reusable silverware. Can you talk about why you didn't explore that option?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. the school told us that they have tried to use like reusable silverware in a couple of the schools in the district before, and they had a problem with students just throwing it out instead of returning it, as well as I think 4 schools in the district don't have dishwashers, so they wouldn't be able to use them there.
That's good that you explored it. I appreciate that. I know at Amherst, they put giant magnets on the top of the garbage cans to get them out. They often were thrown away. Thank you. Great job.
Super. Thank you very much. The Harmac team is up next. And while they're getting their presentation up, Bonnie, I now have a new fun fact. I had no idea that there were magnets on the top of some of those garbage cans to grab those utensils. That is fantastic.
Yeah, I have visions of like levitating forks. It's kind of amazing.
Could be dangerous, right?
That's right. Maggie, you guys are up.
Okay, awesome. Can everyone hear me?
Perfect.
All right. So hello, everyone. My name is Maggie LeClaire.
My name is Jia Wei.
And we had the pleasure to work with Harmac Medical Products this semester. They're a medical manufacturer. The motto of our plan is to replace what sources of CO2 emissions we can and reduce what we can't replace. By implementing a carpooling plan, turning down the temperature in the offices, and replacing all the styrofoam cups, we can save 23,000 pounds of carbon emissions per year. And that's like planting 1,800 trees. The first part of our plan is to enroll interested employees in a carpooling program. This saves Harmac 6,500 pounds of CO2 per year, and it'll save the employees $100 per year on gas. The future of this plan involves connecting employees via an existing app and educating employees on the benefits of the program. Jiawei, off to you.
We plan to change temperature by 1 degree. The CO2 we can reduce from this is greater than 160 trees can absorb in a year, and more than $2,000 we can save every year. Better air quality and higher working efficiency are co-benefits from this action. For the future, we have designed posters to promote people doing this. We plan to shift the styrofoam cups to reusable silicone cups. By doing this, the amount of CO2 we can reduce is greater than 40 trees annual absorption, and more than $8,000 we will save. Styrene contains in styrofoam can cause cancer, and silicone cups do not, which is better for human health. Because of COVID-19, we have to wait until everything settles down and give reusable cups as a gift to all staff. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Harmac and Chris-Ann and UB.
Thank you, Maggie and Jiawei. That awkward moment where you think you're talking, but the mute button is still on. So great work. Hadar and Bonnie, there's got to be a word for that that has not been coined yet that I've heard at least. So Hadar and Bonnie.
Yeah, well, thanks. This is another great presentation. I've had an opportunity to visit Harmac Medical in the past and learn about some of their efforts in their community. So it's nice to see that they're continuing their work. And I was interested to learn about the carpooling plan. I think, we've talked a little bit about opportunities for remote work, but we know that there are instances where we do need to have folks physically on site, and you've demonstrated there's a way that we can reduce the carbon footprint while also making sure that people are able to collaborate and get to the places that they need. So thanks so much. And I'm curious to learn a little bit more about the app that you've considered to match people together for the carpooling. Can you speak to that a little bit?
So we haven't narrowed it down to one app yet. But basically what we're looking for is some way to make it easy for the employees to connect with each other, and also make it easy for the department to be able to recognize that they are carpooling and be able to enroll them in the program, so that it's not all up to one person to be able to designate who carpools with who.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great presentation. Very interesting ideas that you explored. We at the county used 511 New York as our carpooling app. I don't know if you looked at that at all. That's worked for us. As far as the styrofoam, that's something that we've worked at the county as well. And the county, through the sheriff's office, runs the correctional facility out in Alden, where they used in the past quite a bit of styrofoam, and we were recently able to replace that. And I was wondering if you've looked at, instead of reusable mugs, which I understood that you were recommending, compostable mugs, because I know that Harmac does participate in a composting program presently. Did you look at that at all? I know that's kind of the opposite of the question I asked before, but.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so we did look at the impact of using compostable mugs instead. We ended up choosing the reusable mugs because we thought that would be nice for the employees to have all of their own like individual mugs as like a present from Harmac. Mm-hmm. And also it saves Harmac a lot of money because they give out the cups at one time and it's not repurchased over and over. Mm-hmm. But something else that we looked into is also the plates and other disposable ware and getting compostable options for that. That also being said, the cafeteria that Harmac has does not produce a very large amount of waste. It's a really small cafeteria. And so the amount that would be composted is relatively a small amount.
Great. I liked how you captured the different co-benefits for your different recommendations, especially making friends in your meeting.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Excellent. Nice work. Our next group is the Department of Transportation from the Western New York area.
Hey everyone, can you see the screen well?
Perfect.
Fantastic. Hello, my name is Justin, and Anirudh and Sam and I had the opportunity to work with the Department of Transportation to help lower their carbon footprint. We propose that the DOT allow its employees to work from home up to 2 days a week. By doing this, they can save an estimated 320,000 pounds of carbon per year. This is the equivalent of taking 3,000 tree seedlings growing for 10 years or 240 acres of forest. Telecommuting also has the benefit of increasing employee potential as well as employee morale.
Inside office initiatives, we are proposing them two main ideas. First, a computer shutdown policy where each employee has to mandatorily shut their computer when they leave, and then adapting the weather strategy to change the building temperature 1 or 2 degrees closer to the temperature outside. By just implementation of these two strategies, DOT would be saving approximately 8 metric tons of carbon and over $1,000 in just 1 year. In addition, DOT can implement its emergency load reduction plan more frequently to save more carbon and capture. All this initiative would help DOT to achieve New York State CPA goals.
Our final proposal is using the already owned EV vehicles rather than combustion engine vehicles. To incentivize electric vehicles being taken, employers will be required to take electric vehicles while in business before taking any combustion engine vehicles. We're also going to supply maps to Albany showing where charging stations are, both en route and in the city. This would save the equivalent of 400 tree seedlings being grown for 10 years and $5,500 per year. Some co-benefits of this are cleaner air and paying less money for gas, especially because the DOT does not pay for electricity. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and a special thanks to the DOT and Ms. Melissa Bender for working with us this semester.
Thank you, Anirudh and Justin and Samantha. Great work. It always just amazes me that I think it's fitting that we were talking about transportation, and we've got people from all over the world right now presenting. And Anirudh, a huge, again, shout out to you for being around the globe participating in this. So thank you. Hadar and Bonnie.
Thanks. It's great to see all of you, and I have a special connection with Anirudh. He was an intern in Blackstone in the fall semester, so great to see you, Anirudh. Great presentation. Love the graphics. I think very similar pieces to some of the other presentations, but what I was most interested in was the EV policy that you're recommending. Seems like it would be a no-brainer to implement for the Department of Transportation. So thanks for that suggestion.
Nice job, guys. I want to give a special shout out to Melissa Bender because she was an intern both at Erie County as well as for the Western New York Sustainable Business Roundtable. So I've worked with her quite a bit. It's nice to hear that you guys got a chance to work with her. So a couple of the things that I thought you presented great ideas. One of the things that I looked at was the computer shutdown and thought about implementation in our own offices. And I was wondering about the calculation that you used to get the carbon reduction from that, as well as what you were thinking about as far as how to communicate this policy and enforce it in the buildings. So I'd be happy to hear about that.
Anirudh, do you want to tell them about the calcs?
Yeah. So for the calculation, I basically just use the sleep efficiency, like how much power the computer use when the computer is in sleep mode. I've just like multiplied to the like 15 hours maybe. So that's how I computed and I have estimated around 75 computers, but I feel they have a lot more.
That's great. So you assumed that it was going into sleep mode.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
And for implementation, they already have a framework set up for when there is a electrical high load in the summer. So we figured we could use that same framework and same like kind of policy to just get into the habit of doing it normally instead of waiting for an emergency to happen. So the framework's there. We just want to try to get it used more often so that it's not like only in extreme measures, so that it's a lot more often.
Excellent. Thank you.
And there was a quick question in the chat. Maybe we can just grab from Meredith here. But how many EVs does DOT currently use? No, Justin and Rue and Samantha, whether you have that. Okay, well, I think we have 4 there. I'm not sure if people caught the question, but that's all right. So we will move on to our final company, last but certainly not least. And Neera, great to have you with us today from Riches, but the Riches team, you guys are up next.
All right, thank you everyone for coming. I am Kayla, along with Scott and Melissa, and we are the Waste Busters working with Rich Products, which is a global food supplier based in Buffalo. We were tasked with turning Rich's thoughts on sustainability into actions by composting food scraps, reducing energy consumption, and telecommuting as an option, not a necessity. And altogether, we estimate those strategies would save Rich's up to 480,000 pounds of CO2 per year, which is equal to taking 48 cars off of the road. And now Scott will tell you more about these strategies.
So natural upcycling requires an initial down payment to start a composting program with them. At an estimated 500 gallons of compost produced weekly, Riches would owe $144 for composting each week. Removing that compost from the dumpster saves $86 per week in trash removal fees, and using that $86 towards composting yields a $58 per week composting charge. In order to reduce energy consumption, Riches is advised to lower the thermostat by 2 degrees in the winter and raise it by 2 degrees in the summer, potentially saving $9,000 annually. We recommend that Rich Products normalizes telecommuting by allowing a number of employees to work from home each month. A telecommuting employee can save $7.50 per week spent working from home And finally, Riches stands to lower its load on its utilities by requiring less employees to be in the building at once. Now Melissa will wrap it up with the co-benefits of our strategies.
When thinking about the triple bottom line, we can come up with a number of co-benefits. When we look at composting, the largest benefits are creating fertilizer to grow healthy food and turning biogas into usable energy for the grid. By reducing energy usage and travel with telecommuting, it lowers air pollution, thus increasing public health. It also increases productivity by providing a comfortable temperature to work in and allowing self-scheduling with telecommuting. Telecommuting also increases employee morale and the pool of talent to pick from. We'd like to thank everyone at Riches for this opportunity to work together, and a special thanks to Nira, the Sustainability Officer at Riches, and also our professors of the course, Dr. Elizabeth Thomas and Ryan McPherson. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you all very much. Automatic A's for anyone who calls out both professors, so nicely done. Just teasing, just teasing. Over to Hadar and Bonnie.
Thank you for that. That was great. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the composting and the costs and the savings around that. If I understood it right, and I'm not sure that I did, it would result in cost savings. Is that correct?
No, there would definitely be, you'd have to make an investment to do it. There's pretty much no way around it where you'd save money. The way I tried to describe it was that we're removing 500 gallons of, we estimate that they would produce 500 gallons of compost each week, and that would be removed from the dumpster by composting, and that would save on like dumpster pickup fees because they have a less mass of trash going out. So that would save $86 off of their trash removal fees, and then they could re-implement that towards their $144 composting fee.
So it would offset some of the composting. Okay.
Yeah, it's an offset cost, yeah.
Great. And did you happen to dig in at all to their contract that they have with their waste hauler to see if they could actually reduce that collection cost? Did you look at that contract?
Not entirely sure your question.
So, you know, sometimes when you have a hauler, they'll have the contract set up so that there's so many pickups per week, but you know, even if it's a lower amount, you won't be able to save any money. So I'm just wondering how you calculated that, if it was reducing the number of pickups or reducing the size of the container, and if their contract even would allow that the way they have it set up now.
Right, yes. So Riches has a compactor, and when the compactor is full, that is when the pickup occurs.
Okay.
Our impression, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, the nice thing about getting the food waste out of there is that the stink that makes it necessary to really have it picked up regularly is gone. So
absolutely.
Great presentation. I had an opportunity just this past winter to go and visit Natural Upcycling and see their process, which is really fascinating. And on a personal note, just implemented some composting at our house. I required my sophomore in high school to do some research and present to the family what needed to occur to make it a possibility in our house. So lots of benefits of composting, and I love what you've done. I think the other piece with Rich Products is that they often bring their partners on site to do some innovation work, and they could probably educate their partners, some of the other folks in their supply chain, food supply chain, to implement some of these strategies. So it could go beyond just Rich Products, but to their suppliers as well. So thank you for your thoughts. Great presentation.
Leave it to Blackstone Launchpad to talk about scalability. So nicely done. Appreciate the last part there. Super. I believe we have gotten through everyone. Correct me if I'm wrong, but nice work to everyone. If everyone on the call could click on their video, and we can go back to gallery mode or whatever view mode you would like. But we'd love to. We have time to take a few questions here from the audience. The students will refrain, and so will Elizabeth and I from asking questions. But if there's folks on the stream here who have specific questions, including our partners, our corporate partners, please jump in and do that. I'll do my best to try to moderate that. I can't see everyone, so it might be best either just to start in, or you can also put something in the chat if you choose to do that. Any brave souls want to start in?
I had a question that was for the first team that I think they had already logged off by the time I asked it, so it's in the chat. Let's see, it is, I liked the recommendation of allowing employees to work remote 6 days per year. I thought it was interesting, but I'm curious, obviously there was a lot of shuffling about of equipment and getting people physically set up in order to be able to work efficiently from home during this time. So I think that there was a learning curve that occurred over the first couple weeks of maybe employees were not really working until they were able to get back into offices and get monitors and that type of thing. So I was curious, had you, in your research, were you able to identify any other large organizations or government entities which currently have a practice like this in place for flexible remote working? And if so, what are the standards or guidelines that they have in place in order to ensure that employees are going to be able to be working from home efficiently?
So we, before all of this happened, we're suggesting a working from home option. And one of the biggest issues that we faced was the potential for people not necessarily working when they say they're working, and the worry of that. There are a few companies that currently do it. Most are, there's a few healthcare companies like Humana and God, I cannot pronounce the other one, I'm sorry, but also like American Express and even Amazon has working from home capabilities. They're a little bit more, the people who work from home will always work from home situations. But we wanted to suggest a like potential starting spot of letting people work from home occasionally instead of just work from home right here, right now, and always as a way to like filter in this telecommute, like, oh, working remotely as an option. I'm sorry if that answers your.
No, yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Erin. Appreciate the question. Other questions from the group, the audience? Comments?
I was wondering if I remember when I presented to your class and we're talking about, not necessarily, ethics is not the right word, but so say if this is for the entire class, the remote work policy. So you have hundreds of employees working from home now. Now all of those houses have every light on, the heat up, they're generating their own imprints. And I was wondering if anybody took a look at maybe like an average household usage of Western New York, their energy consumption, and what that would look like compared to what the business has decreased in their imprint compared to where everything else might be rising, and if it's comparable at all. Maybe there's a tangent to that is like maybe if you're instituting a remote work policy, you also, it's on the company to start changing consumption behaviors with a green policy from working at home too. So
I was gonna say that would kind of fall under the scope 3 emissions, which are definitely harder to track. But I do know off the top of my head that if you are using a laptop compared to a desktop computer, which is usually you're using a desktop computer in the office space, you're using about, I believe, 80% more energy than up to 80% more energy using a desktop versus a laptop, which is what the person would use at home is most often a laptop, and they could plug it into their monitors and everything already at home. But I didn't account for all the emissions that would be included, but there are a lot of studies that showed that you increase your productivity, you could kind of shift your, you don't all have to work at like say 8 to 5 or whatever, you could shift it so you're off peak energy usage and stuff. So there's a lot of variables you can control with that to lower those emissions even more than if you were working in a corporate office building.
Great question and great answer. A question from John for the Kerbel team as well. What are the waste stream components that would be composted?
So of the potential waste streams, Kerbel had approximately 2,000 pounds of all municipal solid waste that they were able to record and verify that they weren't able to dispose of with like green means or any green methods. The EPA has an estimate. They estimate approximately 14.6, so roughly 15% of all municipal solid waste from companies, households, etc., is by mass compostable material. And that presents an opportunity for us to just calculate roughly how much mass could be compostable, but this also doesn't take into account, you know, knowledge about what materials are compostable. Fortunately enough, we had a member of our team from Kerbel, Allison, who's already very hands-on, and she tried to inform all of her colleagues and peers what materials are and are not compostable. And those type of things would need to be in place. There would definitely need to be a structure in order to maximize how much waste you guys can compost. It's just typically only, you know, coffee grounds, a lot of like common foods in an office that we're aiming to compost.
Great, thank you. To keep us on our time, of course, the students would be more than happy to address any other questions. If you have them, email them to us. I can see that those sarcastic smiles that they're getting right now. But I want to thank everyone for joining us. Elizabeth, Dr. Thomas is going to bring us home here.
Yeah, just a couple thank yous to all of the students. I'm so proud of you. You did such a fantastic job this semester, and ending on this really excellent, these really excellent presentations. Congratulations, and thank you so much for working really hard. Thank you also to our partner businesses and organizations. We quite literally could not have this class the way it is without you. And thank you for your patience and hard work to get our students data and to communicate with them. Thanks to the panelists, Hadar and Bonnie, for joining us today and for sharing your wisdom and experience in this field. And thanks to Derek for helping out with timing and muting people. You probably needed to mute me more since there are children screaming in the background. And then thank you to everyone who took the time to listen in today. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you all, and we will work to get most of this information up on the web, so stay tuned if you want to see any of that. And again, just on behalf of the university, thanks for joining us, and thank you, students, for making this semester all that it ended up being. Fantastic. Have a wonderful rest of your day.